So we are going to round the bend now and bring up our final storyteller, who, from the looks of our YouTube chat, has a lot of fans out there waiting. Lisa Dahl is coming to us. Hi, Lisa, from Sedona,
Hi.
Arizona, where she's going to talk to us about how she
Good.
really her journey to entrepreneurship from an unexpected way. Take it away, Lisa.
Thank you so much. Everyone, you have to excuse my voice. I got a little hoarse, but I'm going to let it rip. Um, Believe it or not, I was born and raised in Indianapolis myself. My mother was the first entrepreneur of her kind, and she opened her first high fashion women's clothing store at the Speedway right after she graduated. She was really a true fashionista and a trendsetter, to say the least. And hopefully, one might say that the apple didn't fall far from the tree. I basically grew up on the floor of a retail clothing store where I learned the true meaning of service right out of the gate. I moved with my son Justin to the San Francisco Bay Area. He was just in first grade. We settled in Marin County, and I thought we had a pretty idyllic life. As a single mom whose son was only 17 years younger than myself, I was like a kid raising a kid. We always had a house full of his friends, and needless to say, there was a very convivial atmosphere always around our house. After school and work, gathering around the kitchen was really part of our everyday life. We loved cooking together, and quite honestly, I think we were really foodies before we even knew that that was a word. Those were the happiest days of my life. One day, unbeknownst to me, Justin rode his bike over the Golden Gate Bridge to the Haight Ashbury. He never came back. He attempted to intervene in a street robbery, and it was already in progress. He raced to retrieve a backpack that was being stolen from a handicapped man, and he lost his life in the act. Everyone in San Francisco just referred to Justin as a good Samaritan, and he became known as the Golden Boy. In those days, street crime was not an everyday occurrence like it is now. He was quite honestly at the wrong place at the wrong time, but he didn't die in vain. His magnanimous power of energy and selflessness could even be felt by those that didn't know him. And he touched lives then and still touches lives, countless lives now. Needless to say, from that day forward, my life as I had known it was never going to be the same. And I can honestly say that I left my heart in San Francisco. I couldn't sustain my old way of life. I was completely surrounded by reminders of where he spent his youth. Every street corner, record store had a memory associated with it that I just couldn't escape. I had once been to Sedona with a boyfriend for a very short trip a few years before, and it was so beautiful and serene. To be honest, I never thought I would live there. But after Justin was killed, I took a little journey there with my parents in hoping to find a safe haven to call my home. It was as if the decision to move there was being angelically guided. Driving a moving truck on my own to Sedona was really scary. And it wasn't the physical move, but that trepidation and fear of not knowing anyone. I'll never forget how alone I felt in those days. I just stood in the middle of my new house, feeling totally cold and alone. And looking out on the snow of this blackened sky, I was thinking, oh my God, what in the hell am I doing here? All of a sudden, through the snowfall in Sedona, the most beautiful supernatural double rainbow I ever had seen with all my eyes. It was a sign from me, from Justin, telling me that I made the right decision. And I never, ever doubted that again. As luck would have it, about a year later, my realtor found a restaurant property for lease. My boyfriend at the time was an Italian chef, and together we founded Dahl and DeLuca Ristorante Italiano in 1995. The realtor threw a birthday party for himself on the first night of business, which was just great because we got to show off our stuff to all the locals and definitely bring in some much needed bucks. 25 years later, that restaurant is still the #1 fine dining destination landmark that paved the way for all of my culinary aspirations. The dedication of my son, Justin, is still on the menu, and it states, "Love is the solution. We reap what we sow." And it's touched millions and millions of hearts. Justin and I had always dreamed of opening a restaurant of our own. He was going to be my maitre d', and I'd be the cooking mom. It was my passion for cooking that has always kept me connected with him. Everyday struggles in the kitchen were definitely taking a toll on my boyfriend and my relationship. The fact that we were business partners made it a lot worse. It seemed like we were at odds over every little thing. And in the midst of our second restaurant, Cucina Rustica, we were in the midst of a turbulent breakup. By immersing myself into the creative process of building and designing the new restaurant, it really, really got me through and helped me channel my emotions in a much more positive way. It took an act of God and several years of struggle to be able to buy out my partner. But finally, in December 2011, I got my freedom, and that was worth the cost of admission, becoming my own entrepreneur. It's a monument of beauty and a favorite of so many to this day. Writing a cookbook as a memoir was something I dreamed of, but not as easy when you have so much going on every day. But when the time was right, it was as if I was being given permission from the spirit realm. As soon as I began the process, I felt as if my pen was like moving with a mind of its own. And I know for sure it was being guided by my son and my father, who just recently passed away. The title, The Elixir of Life, came to me and had deep meaning to me. Writing that book was definitely the defining moment that gave me a voice of my own and recognition for my culinary contributions to my restaurant. To my surprise, I won the I won the IPPY Award, International Cookbook of the Year. A decade later, I opened my first wood fire pizzeria in an old Pizza Hut. The location popped up and I jumped on it. But I was kidding myself if I thought it was going to be an easy as pie proposition. I thought I had pretty thick skin. I always had worked so hard. I didn't realize that there were so many critics and haters. But back then, social media sites began to turn people into food critics. In the end, most of them turned out to be jealous competitors. But a very special message came to me by way of a friend's son who had a dream where he saw a boy at the wood fire oven making pizza. And he turned around and he said, "You tell my mom that everything is going to be okay. I'm with her always." And that was the affirmation that I really needed to figure out all the little deficiencies, and I was going to really make it work. I couldn't let a few negative people make me cave. As luck would have it, we turned around, hitting $1 million in revenue on the night of our first anniversary, and became the #1 pizzeria in a town of many. 8 years later, we're in the process of building out Piece Lisa 2 in hopes of going national, and we're still number one. There was an old abandoned real estate office in Sedona, and it was sitting up on this beautiful vista with a view that was second to none. This property was so gorgeous, but the building had long since fallen from grace. My mother, who was my biggest fan and partner in crime, every time that we drove by, she'd say, "You need to have a restaurant there, Lisa." And I would say, yeah, right, Mom, that's impossible. Several years later, the owner came to me and asked if I'd like to co-develop the property and put in a restaurant. But there was one major hitch. It wasn't zoned for commercial use. And the rezoning process in such an environmentally protected area like Sedona, they said could take up to a decade. Through countless dog and pony shows and city council meetings, coupled with my reputation for keeping Sedona beautiful, it passed in just short of a unanimous vote. Construction began about a year later on what would become the future home of Mariposa Latin-inspired Grill. I'm proud to say that the first year we opened, we welcomed well over 100,000 guests, and it was already receiving national acclaim, and soon was awarded in the top 20 most beautiful dining destinations worldwide by American Express, and 100 most scenic restaurants in America by Open Table. Hence the name Mariposa. It means butterfly in Spanish, and it's a symbol for healing and transformation for so many like me. In December 2019, I opened my fifth concept, which is called Butterfly Burger, a couture burger lounge. It was a natural evolution. After winning the Scottsdale Burger Battle 3 times, I was the only female chef, the only contestant without an existing burger concept, and I was also the only restaurateur outside of the greater Phoenix market. Before opening, I appeared on Beat Bobby Flay for the Grill Me episode where we battled over sliders. Oh, although I didn't actually win, the judges admitted that it wasn't a unanimous decision, but I still felt like I was really the winner. The exposure has been the gift that just kept on giving. It's still being aired to this day. Many people still tell me they really think I should have won. Everything that I have accomplished is in honor of my son. I try to make him proud of me every day. It was truly humbling to receive the Foodist Award 2018 Top Chef Arizona and 2019 Food Pioneer by the Arizona Restaurant Association. I was so honored to be recognized by my peers in the industry that I love so much. Realizing that I was becoming a role model and an inspiration for men and women is something I never, ever take for granted. By following my mission, when you cook with love, you feed the soul. I have been able to give philanthropically in ways I never could have dreamed. In March of 2020, we, like many restaurants, were forced to lock down operations. We sadly let go of over 300 employees, many like family. We have now very slowly and steadily and safely reopened all 5 restaurants and brought back about 250 tenured employees, as well as a lot of fresh new talent to our group. Through all of the trials and tribulations, I feel so blessed to be the CEO of Dahl Restaurant Group and be recognized by Hospitality Magazine as one of the top emerging brands. My romance with food has been my salvation. It's connected me with my son for all these years. It will also be the title of my highly anticipated second book coming out this year, hopefully, which has taken over a decade to write. Our mantra, devoted to excellence and blessed by grace, has never been more poignant than now. And I'm so blessed to share my story with storytellers. Thank you, and thank you all.